It's the All-Star break, so let's catch up with the Spurs fans.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for KENS 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. TGIF, everybody. Hope you're having a great end of the work week and getting ready for the weekend. So what are we talking about today? It's back. Yeah, after a long hiatus, the Locked On Spurs fan episodes are back in a different format, not as much as frequency as it were before, but we're going to shoot for now once a month just to revive that aspect here at Locked On Spurs. So we definitely have a fan guest ready to talk about the state of the Spurs at the All-Star break and dive into Team Compete versus Team Tank, as well as, well, what the Spurs did at the trade deadline. We kind of know what they were aiming for. We're also going to have another special guest later on in the show. Net Gaming head coach Yvonne Curtis of the NBA 2K League stopped by to kind of catch us up on what's going on with his team, what's coming up with the NBA 2K League, as well as just him. And for those that want to learn how to get into the pro esports ranks like the NBA 2K League, what you have to do in order to make your professional careers come true. We thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. We are free and available where we get podcasts. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. Let's go to kick this fan episode off with an oldie but a goodie. He is back, everybody. Zach Escamilla, who was a frequent fan guest when we had Locked On Spurs fan episodes with more regularity. Zach, welcome back to Locked On Spurs. No pressure, but you're the first one back since we put it on hiatus because, Spurs fans got a little rowdy a few months ago.
I can imagine, but I really appreciate you having me on, Jeff. It's always a ball.
Please tell me you're at a bar right now and not at work. That's what the background is.
I'm actually at a conference for work. I'm on break, so
Well, Zach is actually at work right now, but he's on break, as you just heard. So let's try to make this fast and sweet because he has to go back to making those bucks so he can give to me. Right, Zach?
That's right, Jeff.
All right, let's dive into it, Zach. And again, we know you're on a limited time here, but so here we are, state of the Spurs. Time to get the fan pulse. And I guess with the record they have now, which is not stellar at all, I know you love it, but 14 up and 44 down, 14-game losing streak, longest in franchise history, near the bottom of the barrel in the NBA. I'm assuming Team Tank is loving this. Is this correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely part of Jeff. Team Tank. We're absolutely loving what we're seeing right now. I think I can speak for all of Team Tank when I say that. I think it's imperative that we continue to lose so that we can really solidify that 1 to 2 spot. Anything outside of Victor Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson would just be a travesty. Mm-hmm. So, I see those 2 games against the Rockets coming up on the schedule soon. So I'm going to need Pop to do us a solid and to sit Jeremy Sohan and Devin Vassell, and Vassell's been out, but Keldon Johnson, basically just sit everybody and,
right.
Let's just really make sure that we don't let up on the momentum we have going here.
Absolutely. And look, I think it's ready. The writing's on the wall already. This team is circling the drain. We're going to get into that in the next segment. But there was a segment of Spurs fans. It wasn't a big segment, but there really was a segment to start the season that were team play-in, team compete. What are you talking about? Team tank and this, that. It was hotly debated. The fans were warring with each other, especially when the Spurs came out 5-2. Remember that little moment?
Oh man, I remember, but that was fool's gold. Anybody that really bought into that is just pobrecito, what can you say?
But where are they at now? Where would you gauge them? Have they pretty much conceded that it's all but over this season, and they are now team tank.
Everyone that I've personally spoken with is team tank. At this point, I don't see how anyone could possibly be anything other than team tank right now with what, like 22, 23 games left. And, with only 14 wins right now, if somebody's secretly rooting for the Spurs to start winning games and miss out on a chance at generational talent in this draft, well, I really don't know what to say to them other than get help.
Well, that or just accept it. It is what it is already. I mean, the season's a wash, Zach. It's over. It's done.
Yeah, absolutely. They traded away, some pieces, and they clearly are going full tank. I mean, you're not going to convince me otherwise, or I think convince other folks that are quote unquote team tank simply because of the moves that have been made or lack of moves that were made.
Right.
So, let's just ride it out.
As mentioned earlier, the Spurs, one of now officially the longest losing streak, one of the worst records, perhaps one of the worst records ever in Popovich's tenure. When you look at this team, Zach, and we're gauging the fan pulse here, is that nobody should be surprised, right? Whether you're on team tank or team compete at this point of the season, even to start the season. Nobody should be surprised that this Spurs team is this bad.
I don't think anybody should be surprised. I mean, even going into the season, I still, looking at the roster, I think I predicted early this season, Jeff, this was going to be a 20-win team. And it looks like my prediction is going to be pretty close. I mean, unless they just go on some miraculous run. Right. I mean, personally, I'd like to see them not win another game this season. And I know some folks are going to say that's blasphemy, but, I looked at this team at the beginning of the season and said, this is a 20-win team.
Wow. Yeah, I heard numbers like 20, 19, worst case scenario, and it looks like it's tracking that path. But even in a down season, as fans are witnessing, you're witnessing, people that are listening witnessing, the bright light at the end of the tunnel is obviously the draft. But does Team Tank understand that it's just a 14% shot? It's not a guarantee that number one and number two will have the Spurs logo next to it, and when they're on the clock.
I think it's definitely understood. And yeah, I hear that. Oh, it's only a 14% chance, man. Well, it's like playing the lottery. You can't win unless you play. Or in this case, you can't win the NBA lottery unless you lose. So at this point, we're not competing for championships. We're not even competing for a play-in. Just stack all your chips. Get your odds as high as they possibly can be. Even if that odds is only a 14% chance, you still have to do everything in your power at this point in the season to ensure that you're putting yourself in the best position to win a shot at drafting one of those two guys that I mentioned. So to me, it's really as simple as that. You can't win the lottery unless you play to lose right now.
All right. Yeah. So to sum up, it sounds like collectively now, whether team tank or team compete, everybody understands that the season is done, that the best case scenario for this team is to up the draft odds to perhaps get one of the top three picks. I mean, even the number 3 pick would hurt. I mean, what are Spurs fans saying about that? Let's just say they get a top 3 pick. It's just not number 1 or number 2. How are Spurs fans feeling about that at this point of the season?
Well, think about it. Everyone's saying Scoot, Wemby, Scoot. Those are the 2 top guys. But then when you look at all the mock drafts and, the quote unquote experts that are talking about, this upcoming draft and the talent that's going to be available, Scoot and Wemby are 1 and 2. Sometimes you'll see those interchanged, but at the end of the day, from number 3 on, you've seen it. I've seen it everywhere from Amen Thompson at number 3 to Brandon Miller at number 3, or 5 or 6 other dudes that are in mock drafts at pick number 3. So really, picks 1 and 2 are the only bona fide studs, or at least consensus studs
Mm-hmm.
that are available in this draft, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get number 3, I mean, picks 3 through, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 is kind of a crapshoot. I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, unless there's this guy there at 3 that the Spurs are like, yes, this is our guy. We've scouted, Amin Thompson or the other Thompson guy, the Thompson twins.
Right.
If one of those guys is on their radar and they're happy with them, I mean, look, I think I speak for all Spurs fans when I say that we're going to root for whoever they select, whether that's pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, pick 10,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're gonna root for that guy. But right now, with where this season is at, despite the flashes from guys like Jeremy Sohan,
Mm-hmm.
the improvement from Vassell and Keldon Johnson and even
Right.
Trey Jones,
Absolutely.
it's nice to see some of these flashes here and there, but the
Mm-hmm.
Spurs are still a long way away, man. And a guy like
Right.
Victor or Scoot, those two would definitely help expedite the process. Hell, I'll go on record right now. If the Spurs land Victor Wembanyama, if they can land him, they'll make the plan next year. That's my bold prediction. If they can land Victor, I have so much faith in that guy and the current pieces that the Spurs could put around him that they're at minimum, or at least at worst case, a play-in team next year.
He is Zach Escamilla joining me right here on Locked On Spurs for a fan episode at the All-Star break. And when we get back, we're going to talk to him about what the fans thought of the deals the Spurs made ahead of the NBA trade deadline. And then after that, we'll bring in our next guest. He is Yvonne Curtis, head coach and general manager of Nets Gaming Crew. That is a team with the NBA 2K League right here on Locked On Spurs. But first, I want to talk to you about Nissan. Nissan's most electric player of the week is brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. Now, player of the week, you got to give it to Malachi Branham so far. I mean, what a way to close he's at the All-Star break, double-figure scoring, the second best rookie score in the last 5 games heading into that game against the Hornets. He's been upping his game, taking advantage of Devin Vassell's absence and really maximizing those minutes. So, yeah, he definitely is the Nissan most electric player of the week right here on Locked On Spurs. Now, it's electric. It's brilliantly fierce, fiercely elegant, stunningly powerful, elegantly powerful. The concepts, that delivers duality, a combination of fierceness and elegance. It's beautiful but strong. It's the perfect SUV crossover. Yeah, exactly. The Nissan Ariya. You got to check it out. The 2023 Nissan Ariya packs pin you to your seat power and premium intelligence all in one EV. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya, the EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Zach Escamilla on this fan episode where we get the pulse of the fan base at the Spurs/NBA All-Star break. Now, we're talking about, state of team compete versus team tank, and it seems like everybody's on board of it is what it is. Pretty much it's a bad season. But to further the tank, or to further, I guess, the team setting themselves up for perhaps a really strong offseason, is a few deals that they made ahead of the trade deadline, Zach. Now, in no particular order, they had to deal with the Heat. Basically they just bought a couple of second-round picks. Dwayne Dedman came back for a quick minute, but he was let go. The big one was the Jakob Poeltl deal with the Raptors. Then you also had the Josh Richardson deal with the Pelicans. Again, the thread, Zach, is draft picks and cash. That's pretty much it. That's all it really was. What more do Spurs have to understand that this team is just looking out for the future, not for the present?
I mean, you said it. It's all right there. Read them and weep. It's clear that the Spurs are just going to continue building for the future. And, I'll catch some hell for saying this, but me, Jeff, I've never been a huge Jakob Poeltl fan. Sorry, just never have been. So for me, the fact that the Spurs were able to get a first-round pick out of him, I was pretty ecstatic when I heard the news. So it's like, hey, move into another direction. And plus, if the Spurs get Vic, I mean, there's your replacement right there. So, and plus, we got Chuck Bassey. I actually really do like Chuck.
Right.
So, for me, I was a fan of that move. Would it have been nice to maybe get another pick, fleece Toronto? Sure. But at the end of the day, if that was the best deal, then hey, so be it. And I think
Right.
it also worked out for Jakob too, because he got to go back to the team that drafted him. And, I think there's something to be said for that. The Spurs trying to do right by their players, even when they trade them. And, I think Josh Richardson, he was one of those guys with that New Orleans deal where fans really liked him, but he definitely wasn't. There were some games there that I think Josh Richardson really helped the Spurs win. And I think I could confidently say that if Josh Richardson was moved much earlier this season, he may be able to knock off maybe 2 or 3 less wins, because he really was a pretty big piece of what the team was doing when they were successful at winning games this season. But to get a guy in Devontae Graham, who when I first looked at the trade, I thought, well, wow, he's still got some years on his contract. But hey, you need some depth. And if he could be a good vet off the bench, which so far he has been, and then they get, a bunch of second round picks out of it, which second round picks seem to be gold in today's NBA.
Apparently so, yeah.
So yeah, I think to get something instead of nothing, because Josh would be a free agent this coming off season. So yeah, not a terrible move there. And what was the other move?
The other move was the Charles Bassey. You mentioned it, and to sign him to a NBA deal instead of a two-way deal. So,
yeah, I like it.
No,
I
yeah,
like that move.
it was a safe move. It didn't break the bank. He definitely has a lot of upside. Popovich is just loving his that's Bassey's upside. But I was going to ask you, once the dust settled from the trade deadline and the Spurs were done, what was the collective feeling with the fan base? Were they thumbs up with the moves, thumbs down, they hated it, or they just didn't care?
I think it depends on who you talk to. I know there were a lot of Spurs fans that were big Jakob Poeltl fans. I think those fans were probably a little upset, thinking that, well, we should have tried to keep him. He was part of the solution, not part of the problem, sort of thing. Maybe we could have gotten a little bit more compensation for him. I know he had that big game recently where he scored 30 points and had like 6 blocks and, looked like Will Chamberlain out there. And fans were like, see, this is what he can do. And it's like, well, the guy, he had his moments, I'll give him that. But ultimately, I don't think he fit the timeline of what the Spurs are trying to do. So they did right by him, in my opinion. But yeah, you're definitely going to have those fans that were probably a little butthurt by it. And again, you're going to have others that I think were just indifferent. They look at the Josh Richardson trade and they're like, second round picks. Yay, I guess. To throw your hands up. And
Are Spurs fans looking at the team, Brian Wright, the front office, with a big microscope this offseason, where they're like, okay, you made all these moves, you got a war chest of picks, all this cash, all these young players that you could possibly flip? Do Spurs fans look at this offseason as y'all better do something?
I think so, but let me tell you how I look at it. This offseason is going to be weird for a lot of reasons. For me, what's going to make or break this offseason is going to be the draft. If they can get that 1 or 2 pick and draft, Victor or Scoot, that's going to be the prize of the offseason. Because if you look at the free agent class this year, it's actually not that great. I think Russell Westbrook statistically may be the best or sexiest name on the market, and he's not really, a hot commodity these days, with people trading him and trying to get rid of that contract. That's a whole nother story. But point is, I don't really foresee the Spurs making any big splashes outside of maybe using some of those draft picks to maybe move up into the first round, get another player, maybe moving players to it just depends on who's available. But for me, I expect to see most of the action happen on draft night with the Spurs. And then I see the actual free agency period being very, very blah. If I had to.
We lost you, Zach.
Can you hear me now, Jeff?
Yeah, go ahead. And 3, 2, 1, go.
If I had to throw out some sort of hot take for the offseason, my own personal hot take, Jeff, I think the Spurs could do something really weird, especially if Pop doesn't retire and he sticks around. I could see the Spurs very easily trading like some of those second round picks for Ben Simmons. And I know Spurs fans are going to hate me for saying that, but I could totally see.
I hate you for saying that right now.
I'm just saying to get them on the cheap, some second round picks, send him to the Nets since the Nets are, just desperate to move on from his contract. I could easily see that be the craziest thing the Spurs do, trade or free agency wise. So that's my hot take for you. For
Well, we heard the background right now. We know you're at work, so we're not going to keep you too long here. But all in all, I think Spurs fans should just see this season as just an extended training camp. It's really what it is. It's just a long, extended preseason training camp. Because in my opinion, I think the real season begins when this season is over. And the offseason begins in the draft, as you mentioned, and what happens from there. From that point on, then we'll see what this team is made of. Zach, again, thank you for taking time off from your busy work schedule. And hopefully you'll come back now. It seems like Spurs fans calm down, right? Maybe.
Hopefully. I mean, I have my professional Twitter page that I use for work, and I kind of see, from the outside every now and then, but I try not to, tweet anything from that because I don't want to get into the hoopla and getting in trouble.
Yeah, don't do that. Again, yeah. Zach, we appreciate you for hopping on this fan episode of Locked On Spurs. But when we get back, Yvonne Curtis, he is the head coach and the GM for Net Gaming Crew. That is an NBA 2K League team. He joins Locked On Spurs next to talk about his journey, the team, the NBA 2K League, and much, much more. So stick around for that. He is coming up. But first, I want to talk to you about Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and if your goal is to eat healthier, then, well, Built Bar is for you. If you don't want to compromise taste, then we got this for you. You got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. They're so delicious, you won't even think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come with unbelievable flavors in each and every box, like the churro, peanut butter brownie, chocolate almond. I don't know how Built does it, but they do it. Tastes like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. Don't want to wait for long? You want to get yourself a box right now? Well, you want to go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club right now. If you go to your Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, grab yourself a box of Built Bars. They have a 4-bar box, cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to a Sam's Club, they have a 13-bar box with flavors such as brownie, batter, and churro. You can thank me later. All right, up next is our interview with Yvonne Curtis. Once again, he is the GM and head coach of Nets Gaming Club. That is a NBA 2K League team based out in Brooklyn, New York. And yeah, I'm a big advocate and a big fan of esports, especially NBA 2K League. So on Nets Gaming Media Day, Yvonne had a chance to catch up with me right here on Locked On Spurs to talk with you about his journey, his path, and as well as how you can become an NBA 2K League player. And he breaks it down for you very simple. A very good chat. Once again, this is Yvonne Curtis with the Nets Gaming Club with the NBA 2K League. First question I got for you right here for Nets Gaming's original OG, Kurt. Kurt, first question I got to ask you is this: the offseason. That's where the bread and butter is made. That's where you get this team ready to go. How would you assess the offseason draft heading into the new season?
This season was the past season was kind of like something that I hadn't experienced. We were competitive. Mm-hmm. One game out of the playoffs in 3v3, one game out of the playoffs in 5v5. Of course, fell short of our goals, but mm-hmm. I think going into the offseason, I knew what we had to do. I kept our front court, who was one of the top defensive cores in our league, and Streets, mm-hmm. Sean Brown, and Shots, Conor Rodriguez, and Steve's Alex Bernstein. they were going to be the core I was going to build around. I know we had to get a backcourt. And fortunately for me, in this draft, it was a lot of talent in the backcourt. So we knew we had to get an elite point guard and a good complementary shooting guard, and that's exactly what we did.
With a new roster, does it mean really starting all over again from scratch, or do you truly believe this team can pretty much take off from the get-go, day one, game one?
You can say it's a new roster, of course, but I've had Shots who's been with me for 3 years now, and then Sean and Alex, Steez and Streets, they've been with me 2 years. They're going into their second years with me. And Alex, he's been in the league 6 years. Connor's been in the league 6 years. And then Glenn Wilkerson, a.k.a. Glenn Ratty, who we drafted at 31, the shooting guard, he's been in the league. This will be his third season. And, of course, our prize number 2 pick, Tariq Reed, Greens, I knew that I wanted to surround him with some veteranship, some leadership, but also some players that were really talented as well. So I think we may have our bumps early, but I don't think it's not anything that we won't be able to figure out. I think this team, they know our ceiling and they know what we're capable of doing. I think they're going to attempt to do that each and every night.
Kurt, it sounds to me like this team is kind of, I want to say stacked, but more leaning towards veterans. You just rattled off a lot of the names right now, and you're right. But don't you think that with a veteran team like that, perhaps success should come a little earlier than, as the season goes on? Or you think that's just too much to assume at this point?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think when you have veterans in this league that have been through the grind, they know the ins and outs. It's just pretty much getting that cohesiveness together early. And that's pretty much where you take off. We talk about this all the time, is that the best teams are going to be the teams that have their mental right. And just have a full understanding with each other. And I think that's supposed to be the benefit of having veteran players. And I think I can honestly say in 5 years, this is probably the most confident and the most relaxed I've been coming into a year because of the type of caliber players that I have, but not only what type of players they are, they're just good people.
I don't want to put you on the spot here, and feel free to not answer if you don't feel comfortable, but do you, when you look at the roster, is there perhaps a player, maybe players that you're looking forward to and expecting them to take the next step in their development?
Yeah, I would honestly say, going into the offseason with the players that I retained, I told them some different things that I wanted them to step up and do. And Sean Brown, who's our lockdown defender, I told him that I wanted him to be more aggressive on offense. And I think in the preseason, thus far, he's been doing that. I wanted him to be able to make plays. I just didn't want him to be known as a strictly defensive player. So that's a player that I'm looking for to take a big leap. And then obviously, when you get drafted at number 2,
exactly,
the pressure is on whether you like it or not. I mean, I think anybody who gets drafted within the first top 5 picks, you instantly, especially at point guard, because it's such a pivotal position in our league, that that it's a lot that comes with it. And fortunately for me, I think Greens knows that, and I think he's welcoming a lot of aspects that's going to come with being the number 2 pick. And hometown kid gets a chance to put his city on his back, so to speak, from Brooklyn. I think he wanted to be here. We wanted him here, and now it's just time for him to show and prove.
Take us behind the scenes for that pick, number 2 overall. What was going on through your mind? That's a very high pick. Perhaps franchising, a franchise type player. Was he the guy that you guys targeted? I mean, it was him, or just what went on that war room?
I think what it was we knew right away that it goes all the way back to the draft lottery. Once we realized that we were blessed with the number 2 pick, because I'll tell you, Jeff, typically a team that had the type of season we have, you don't get the number 2 pick. Typically, we would have got a later pick. So, I looked at it as a blessing. And then when we seen that, I'd known about Greens from gameplay, but I didn't know him personally. And I think the interview process of me getting a chance to know him more and talk to a lot of people who actually knew him personally, it made me comfortable in knowing that he was going to be the guy for us. Now, fortunately, we were able to make a draft day trade that solidified the pick for us, because there was a lot of other activity going on amongst other teams that were going to possibly interfere with that. And that was, if you go to Twitter and you actually see the video we posted when we made the pick, I kind of looked stressed out. But it was really a sign of relief that we were able to make a deal, get a deal done.
Right.
Definitely shout out to Wes, the GM for Hawks Talent, and Rustin, who's the GM for Warriors Gaming Squad, they're making that happen.
We're talking with Yvonne Curtis. He is OG King Kurt on Twitter. Follow him on Twitter at OG King CURT. He is a GM and coach for Nets Gaming Crew of the NBA 2K League. I got to talk about you. You know, I think I've known you. You started your NBA 2K League career like 1 year ahead of me. I came on covering it year 2, but I've seen you develop from just a coach, and now you're a GM. What about that path? How has that been for you?
Man, let me tell you, Jeff, it's truly a blessing and an honor. I think, my love for the game ultimately led me down this path, and it was an unknown path. Nobody could have foreseen the 2K League becoming a thing, and having an opportunity to actually work in my dream city. I've been a New York fan, although I'm from Ohio. I've been a New York fan since I was a kid. So just being blessed and having that opportunity to do that. But also the biggest blessing comes from making these guys, these players' dreams come true. You know, they get a chance to go from being an amateur to becoming a pro. And I think that's the biggest thing that I really take pride in out of everything that I do. Amongst the many things that I do, is just, on draft day, I get a chance to bring in players that they get a chance to live out their dreams.
Right.
And, it's a surreal feeling each and every year, almost each and every day, even in the off season, because I'm still connected to the amateur scene. Like you mentioned, I'm one of the most well-known figures in the 2K community.
Yes, you are. Yep.
It's been a true blessing, and I'm just thankful for all the opportunities that continue to come my way, and I don't take it for granted, not one day.
Yeah, let me tell you right now, Kurt, even helped me when I was starting out covering the league. He was the one who really was helping me understand what's going on, guiding me the right direction to players. So he's definitely a guy that you want to go to if you're looking for a career in the NBA 2K League. Again, follow him on Twitter at OG King Kurt. That's CURT. Now let's talk about the season ahead. You kind of hinted towards it. You with the veterans, perhaps success might come a little earlier, considering there's a lot of veterans on there. You got the number 2 pick. What do you think would be the blueprint for this team moving forward once the games begin for real?
Going into the season, I think the blueprint for us is just it's a phrase that I kind of coined for us, and I say, let's stay connected. Like I tell them that in all facets. It's a lot of distractions that comes with this position, because there's only 125 players in our league. So not everybody can get in, and not everybody's blessed with the opportunity. So there's always going to be a lot of distractions. So I say stay connected, like focus on all the players that's in the room, and that's on a daily basis. And I think when I say stay connected, that means not only when we practicing, but when we're not practicing, when you're out in your own off time and doing things like that, just getting to know each other a lot better. And I think that's easily going to translate into when we're in those tough moments throughout the season or throughout a game, that you know who the person is right next to you that you're battling with. And I think that's very important. I think I do a great job of work and rest balance. We play the game a lot, but I also give them their time off to live, and I try to force them to do that. Take care of your bodies, take care of your mind, because those are going to be the big things down the road. Like the team that really stays composed and have the right mindset in each and every situation. That's going to dictate a lot. So I like I said, it's about staying connected. I think they all have the common goal. The one thing I like about this team is that they're all very ultra competitive. Like I don't think I've never had a roster 1 through 5 that like showed emotion about how they're performing, how we're performing. I know for a fact that when we're communicating and when we're all in and when we're staying connected, that we're going to be tough to beat. And if you happen to beat us, then we just have to, like Steve say, just have to tip your cap.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Like I said, I've known Kurt for a long time now. He and I go way back. He always provides a competitive team on that court. Does it come up short sometimes? Of course it does, but that's the grind. Now, speaking of the grind, you are a man of many hats. You're a GM. You're the coach for the NBA 2K League Nets Gaming, excuse me. And you're also the host of the OG 2 Cents podcast. What is all that about?
Man, I'll tell you, I think, and I always have to tell this story because this happened way before I became a part of the 2K League. As far as the podcast, basically I was sitting with a group of friends who are now also in the 2K League. It's Jelani Mitchell, who was the head coach for Jazz Gaming, Nicholas Gartrell, who was once with me at Nets Gaming, but now he's the head coach, a successful head coach at
and you know what, Kurt, that still baffles me because I still remember him working for you guys and running around the old New York arena with me, trying to help me guide me in learning this stuff, and to see him hit success right now. I think that kind of goes back to you because you really been there for him and a lot of players that have now become coaches or players or in executive positions.
No, I agree. And I think, I humbly agree as well. I love to see people win. I love to see people successful, whether I take a hand in it or not, because somebody did it for me. I just always believe in paying it forward. But then also Graham Borden, who is now the 2K League Global Ambassador, we were sitting on the rooftop after season 1 of the finals between Knicks Gaming and Heat Check Gaming. And I was trying to figure out a way to be more engaging with the community. And it was Jelani who said, Kurt, you might want to be more engaged on Twitter. So I just started posting stuff on Twitter, positive affirmations. And then I hashtagged the OG 2 Cents. And then it just took off. It took a mind of its own. And then after a few years, I said, you know what? Maybe let me make a podcast so people can get a better understanding of what's my aim. And since then, I had some help along the way, learned some ins and outs about it, and I'm coming up on my 100th episode.
Congratulations!
I appreciate it. So it's been a long time coming. Actually getting some other opportunities to possibly host some shows and different things like that stem from it. So I'd say it's been fairly successful, and it's just a motivational, positive podcast. Of course, that's naturally geared towards 2K, but I've had on anywhere from WNBA players, the sportscasters to Olympians and everything like that. So I've been truly blessed with that. But to answer your question again about the head coach and GM role that I take on is that it's kind of funny because I tell people when I introduce myself, I say general manager. But because these players have a high IQ for the game. Like they wouldn't be at this level if they didn't. I've had a tendency to trust my players and trust their abilities and knowing the in and outs of the game. I just basically chime in my 2 cents every now and then. But my job is to make sure that they're comfortable, make sure they have everything that they need to compete. And whether that's on the game, off the game, I just want them to be at their best. And I think that's where I thrive at. And I don't overstep. And I think my players really love and respect me for that.
No, you do. You're well respected throughout the community. Again, I tip my cap to you helping me learn the ins and outs early when I started jumping into the 2K League as well. But you get this a lot. And I got to ask this, and I've even been there in person to see it myself when people come up to you and ask you, how do we get into the league? So would you mind dropping an OG 2 cents here on this episode of Locked On Spurs to tell us what advice would you give to players that are seeking to make their way to the league?
Will do, Jeff. I think I always say how to improve your chances on becoming an NBA 2K League player. I can give you something in a short stint, but what I typically do is when people reach out and ask me via social media, I have a template that I send out to each and every person who asks me that. And basically what I do is I break down about how to get involved in the amateur scene. I think you want to get in tune with the Unified Pro-Am Association, of course, the NPBA, the WR, those type of leagues, and you want to compete. That's pretty much how you get your name out there. And I think you need to obviously research the 2K League. You need to know the teams. You need to know the coaches. You need to know the players. Stay in tune with the league. And don't be afraid to reach out to GMs and coaches like myself. I think those are good avenues. Then also compete in the league events. That's another way to get your name out there and show people, where your game is at. Absolutely. I think just temporarily doing those things get you closer to where you want to be. Also, with those Unified Pro-Am events that's live, even if you're not playing, you want to try to attend them to network.
Sure. Yeah.
So that is very important. Networking is an underrated skill right now with our very young esport, but it's very important.
Yeah, and even for me, looking from the outside in, or now I guess from the inside in, because I think I've grown with you guys, to see the league just take off. I mean, there's now a team in Australia, and I remember when it was just a handful of teams back playing in the New York arena, in Mexico, the Dukes Gaming, Your Evolution, so yeah, it's definitely growing leaps and bounds. Kurt, before I let you go, anything you want to promote, anything you want to put out there, where can fans reach you, aspiring players who want to talk with you?
Most definitely. The best way to reach me, of course, is on social media at OG King Kurt. That's OGKINGCURT. And I'm everywhere. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Also, you can find out a lot of information that can be very helpful on the OG 2 Cents podcast. And that's on YouTube, also Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow, our team, Nets Gaming Crew, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Nets Gaming Crew.
Is wrestling next up? Because you guys went to Raw. Am I gonna talk to you next? You're gonna be like the man crusher Kurt? Is that what's gonna be now?
Nah, I have to pass up. I want to bow out gracefully before I leave this earth. I definitely, I take pride in taking care of my body and things like that. But you definitely won't see me on the mat no time soon. But I will tell you, I was a huge wrestling fan when I was a kid. Yeah. But never attended an event or anything like that. So getting the opportunity to go to Monday Night Raw was truly a good experience. Got to spend time with the players. Some players obviously know a lot about wrestling and things like that, but I definitely enjoyed myself. Yeah,
likewise too. I think the last wrestling I went to was the AEW match out in Flushing at the Queens area out there. Right. Very fun, but yeah, exactly. So once again, we want to thank the coach, the GM of Nets Gaming. He is OG Yvonne Curtis. Yeah, he is the OG for a reason. And we thank him for taking time on this episode of Locked On Spurs.